Does anyone else have a love-hate relationship with Assassin's Creed? Every game is beautiful, and for every good thing about the series, there exists just as many issues. It seems like yesterday, the first Assassin's Creed hit the scene at E3 2006. Initially conceived as a Prince of Persia spin-off, the game took on a life of its own and ended up winning Ubisoft an unprecedented amount of success. Almost 10 years later, Assassin's Creed has established itself as one of the big franchises under Ubisoft's open world collection. We know what to expect by now: an open world city to explore, towers to climb, collectibles to find, targets to assassinate, pseudo-stealth, some fun yet brainless combat, and of course, parkour. With 9 main entries out and Ubisoft openly admitting that they need to revise the formula, has the series really been as good as it could have been? Come take a journey with me through the long, windy road of Assassin's Creed. The original Assassin's Creed is perhaps the best example of something both spectacular and unspectacular. Taking inspiration from the real-life story of Hassan as-Sabah, you play as Altair, a young assassin who must regain his honor after he breaks the 3 tenets of the Assassin's Creed, all while discovering what the opposing Templar faction is up to. The narrative was interesting, exploring a morally gray topic regarding whether or not the ends justified the means. Unfortunately, that aspect was pushed aside by the boringness of the gameplay. Every mission played out the same. You would travel to an area, gather information about your target, and then kill him. There was no variety to this. The 3 cities all looked very much the same, and the only thing to do outside the main quest was collect flags. It genuinely made you wonder why the developers put so much time into creating something that would not even be seen by players. But this was just a start to the Assassin's Creed franchise. If you were to ask fans which Assassin's Creed is the best, you're more than likely going to get 2 as your answer. Replacing the silent Altair with the charismatic Ezio Auditore, Assassin's Creed 2 moved the setting to Renaissance Italy, and man, was it amazing. A colorful cast of characters, gorgeous architecture, a diversity of activities, and a wonderful coming-of-age story made it genuinely great. But what really elevated things was the NPC AI. Walking through Florence was such a visceral experience because it felt like you were walking through a real city. People talked to each other, lovers flirted, merchants sold their crafts, musicians played in the corner, and thieves hung on the roofs. It was so phenomenal. On top of all this, it also pushed forward the modern-day story, something that would be unfortunately ignored in future releases.
You must stay busy.
Ezio, I barely have time to polish my blade.
The next 2 AC games saw 2 significant shifts from the previous entries. One, they lost series creator and director Patrice Désilets, whose story with Ubisoft could be a video on its own. And 2, they started the yearly release trend. As we've seen with other games, requiring a developer to put out a game every single year can be a very bad thing for games. Such was the case here. Both beautifully continued Ezio's story from Assassin's Creed 2, but didn't do much else. Brotherhood brought some new components like multiplayer and the ability to redo missions, but reused animations, had a shorter main story, and added useless collectibles like flags and feathers. Revelations was even worse as its additions were poorly thought out. The historical narrative had a literal tower defense knockoff, and it's appropriately called Den Defense. The present day, on the other hand, was literally turned into a strange first-person puzzle platformer that felt ridiculously out of place in this genre.
We need more speed! Lose the sail! Take them! You take them!
Moving out of the windy and busy cities of the first games, climbing through colonial Boston and New York is arguably less exciting. While Assassin's Creed 3 maintains the spirit of the original games and offers a critical look into history, it is often the AC game most widely criticized. Assassin's Creed 3 was rushed out to coincide with the 2012 end-of-the-world theories that the game's story relied on. As a result, we got a buggy mess that resulted in so many problems, even with the patches. Broken stealth, a poorly thought-out hunting mechanic, an awful UI that required multiple screens, architecture that was not compatible with free running, and a clumsy, time-skip-riddled narrative that was more interested in retelling the American Revolution than doing its own thing. I could go on and on and on, but I think the game speaks for itself. Any potential the new protagonist Connor had was just thrown out of the window, and let's not even get into how it ended the modern-day plot. Black Flag was for many of us seen as a miniature rebirth for the franchise. A charming Ezio-esque lead was found in the form of Edward Kenway, and the core mechanics of the franchise were sidelined by new gameplay focused on naval battles and exploration. The story was less about the Assassin-Templar conflict and more about just good old-fashioned pirates. But for die-hard AC fans, these factors could be seen as negative. Edward's outsider status meant that he had a very impersonal relationship to the past entries of the franchise. The story was just disconnected as a result, and often at times just kind of boring as it focused on a nonsensical pirate utopia. And of course, having sprawling ship battles didn't exactly scream Assassin's Creed. Nonetheless, its positive reception provided just enough goodwill for Ubisoft to continue their yearly release plan with the next Assassin's Creed, Rogue. If there was ever a game that deserves to be called underrated, it would definitely have to be Rogue. Released the exact same day as Unity, yet with none of the promotion, Rogue was seen as a consolatory gift for past-gen players, and it definitely shows. Much like Brotherhood, the story is really short. There are useless collectible items, and a lot of reused assets from its predecessors. But Rogue also had some really cool features that were unique and new. For starters, you got to play as a Templar, experiencing that side of the ancient war. Instead of doing assassination contracts, you were now preventing them. Your ship could be boarded. You had a fucking grenade launcher.
I must get out, or I'm as good as dead.
It was these little things that pushed Rogue forward, and above all else, nothing tops seeing an aurora borealis while sitting perched on an iceberg. Simply beautiful. Unity needs no introduction. If you were following any form of social media during its immediate release, there's a good chance you saw the hideous results of its lack of polish. Character faces looked melted off, NPCs floated away, and the frame rates could slow to the crawl of a beachside turtle. And to add salt to the wound, Ubisoft implemented a microtransaction system to squeeze every last penny from gullible gamers. The sad thing is, if you take into consideration the patches, Unity is actually a pretty goddamn good game. The new parkour and combat system, they do take some time to get used to, but they showcase real innovation. After all, we got a crouch button, sort of. Side quests were fun, rift missions surreal, mysteries a joy to solve. The ironic thing is, if Unity had stayed cooking another year, it might have reviewed as one of the best in the series, but alas, such was not the case for the French company. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is a game that is hardly talked about, despite its essentially fixing everything wrong with Unity. There were hardly any bugs this time around, the navigation system was more streamlined, and to top it all off, we finally got a female protagonist, discounting Liberation. The choice by Ubisoft to feature two main playable characters was an interesting touch that added variety and flavor. Not to mention, Victorian England just oozed with life much in the same way Italy did in Assassin's Creed 2. Sadly, the main story itself didn't quite live up to expectations, with an ending that in particular came off as rushed. As a result, the reception was once again mixed, and the sales reflected popular opinion. Assassin's Creed Syndicate sold around 3 million copies less than Unity. These lower sales numbers prompted Ubisoft to finally end the yearly release cycle and concentrate on giving their developers more time to put out a strong product, which is a very, very good thing.
Must be one of the clinkers. Good place to start.
Assassin's Creed is a franchise that has definitely earned its stripes, but Ubisoft unfortunately let the game's reputation get ahead of the actual development process. Out of 9 games, 2 have been released in just inexcusable condition, while most have reused just too many aspects from prior entries. Assassin's Creed is a series that has such a great mythology and character, and we want to see that brought to the forefront in the future alongside innovative gameplay. We need change, we need quality, and we need a deviation from the norm that we call Assassin's Creed. But can Ubisoft actually do that? Drop a comment down below and tell me about your stories with Assassin's Creed and what you believe AC Origins needs to do to become the best Assassin's Creed game ever. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, by all means hit the thumbs up button for me and subscribe here for more of our future content. You guys have a super duper awesome day, and we'll see you in our next video.